Before we get into the video, I want to talk to you guys about the OneFootball app, because for me it's the best football app there is on the planet. It's great for team news, transfer news, player statistics, league tables, all of that good stuff. So you can use the link in the description down below to get the app for free. And it's actually now even better than ever, because now you have full Serie A coverage once again for free. So that's league tables, but more importantly, game highlights. And also, once every game week, you can watch a match live, literally for free. Zero cost. The next one will be on the 1st of October after the international break, and it will be Empoli at home to AC Milan. A game that I'm really looking forward to watching, and you guys should be too. If you are interested, make sure to use the link in the description down below. I really do highly recommend it. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today I want to talk about this guy on screen here, and this England team. Now, this is off the back of England's 1-0 defeat to Italy in the Nations League, seeing them relegated, and I'm recording this video on a Saturday night, kind of giving myself some time to reflect on the whole performance, because over the past 24 hours, but also in general, we're seeing quite a big response to these bad England performances. And everywhere on YouTube there is Southgate out, Southgate must go, this is the lowest England have ever been as a footballing nation, things like that, and I think it's a little bit reactionary. Now, my opinion always in football is that things are probably never as good, but also never as bad as what you think they are. And I think England are a prime example of that. I want to take you back to the Euros last summer. Going into the tournament, we felt quite confident. 2 games in, we weren't scoring, playing quite bad football, and we were terrible. According to everyone, absolutely awful. And then we get all the way to the final, we're one of the best teams in Europe suddenly. And now these performances have shown that we probably never were one of the best in Europe. So it's never quite as good, never quite as bad as what you think. And before I get into the video, and kind of discuss things tactically, I just want to cover a few things regarding Southgate and just things moving forward for England. Because, like I said, there's a lot of Southgate out things and people saying he's not good enough tactically. What I'm not seeing an awful lot of is people saying why he isn't good enough tactically. Actually, what is going wrong? So I want to break that down today. Those saying Southgate out before the World Cup, I think you just kind of need to think about it a bit more logically. So I'm recording this Saturday night. Southgate hasn't been sacked. If he was sacked now, he's got maybe, in terms of a new manager coming in, it's too late for them to manage on Monday, the game against Germany, which means the new manager, the first time they meet this England squad, will be on like the 12th of November, 7 days before the World Cup starts. So Southgate out now doesn't make sense. Southgate out after the World Cup, yes, I've been saying it since the Euros, but to do it now, like 2 months before the tournament starts, it doesn't really make sense. Instead, what I want to talk about is tactically what is going wrong. Rather than just saying Southgate out, Southgate isn't good enough, why isn't he good enough? What is he getting wrong? And of course, to do that, we have to go to the formation and the shape, things like that. And I want to start off with this Italy game, where England shaped up in a 3-4-3 with a reasonably strong squad. This probably isn't far off England's strongest 11 in Southgate's eyes, barring a few injuries. And in my opinion, he made a lot of mistakes. In shape, couple in personnel. And I want to start off with Nick Pope in goal. Now, Nick Pope is a brilliant goalkeeper, doing really well for Newcastle at the moment. He's been good for Burnley the past few seasons. Got his chance in the England squad. People have been asking for him to play. This game proved he is nowhere near England level in terms of with the ball at his feet. In modern football, your goalkeeper has to be able to play out from the back, and his passing was pretty atrocious. And he didn't look comfortable on the ball at all. So going into the tournament, Pope has no chance. It's going to be Pickford or Ramsdale, probably Pickford assuming he's fit. So that was the first error for England in this particular match, was that they couldn't really play the ball up from the back. I am just going to quickly interrupt because we do have another sponsor for today's video, and that is JerseyFifa.com. The website you need to head to right away to get yourself the latest and greatest football shirts, all at an extremely affordable price. The link will be in the description below, so head there right away to get yourself a great shirt, again at a great price. Now back to the video. In terms of the more general shape, it doesn't make sense for the style that England were trying to play. Now, England had spells where they were able to dominate possession, but also they had spells where Italy were on top and they were looking to counter-attack. So I want to cover that first, and I want to talk about the attacking setup of this team when you're trying to play counter-attacking football. Now, a lot of fans want England to dominate games, and that's understandable. I think England should. But you can't do that all the time, and there are situations where you do have to sit off a little bit and play a bit more in the transition. Especially with a slightly cautious manager like Gareth Southgate, I think that will always be the case under him. But if you're going to do that, you have to be set up to do that. And when you play Kane, Foden and Sterling in a front three to play counter-attacking football, it doesn't add up. So this is one of the problems that Southgate has at the moment. Let's say in the big games, when he's looking to play on the transition a little bit, This is one of the issues in this particular formation and these personnel. Now, if you think of Kane at Spurs, he plays in a similar formation and he does quite a similar job. He looks to drop deep and then release people in the attack. But he has Heung-min Son there, who is constantly making runs in behind the defence, off the ball, trying to get in on goal. We've seen it the last few seasons. In Sterling and Foden, you don't have that. And what England had was players that were constantly coming towards the ball. When you're trying to counter-attack, that doesn't work. Someone has to break the line and go in behind. Because instead it meant Italy could squeeze nice and high up the pitch. And there was just nothing going in. Someone's got to run. Someone has to run. Or Southgate has got to pick a player who is more willing to do that. Perhaps someone like Marcus Rashford could do a job for England moving forward. Obviously he was unfit in his particular squad. But England need a runner if you're going to play counter-attacking football. You can't play counter-attacking football, attack the open space, if all the players are coming away from the space and coming towards the ball. And it was really heavily reflected in the average positions. This is England's average positions here. And I want you to look at 10, 9, 8, 11 and 4. They're really, really condensed. Now England actually ended up having slightly more possession in this game. But there's just players everywhere coming towards the ball, and the Italian centre-backs were never troubled. Now if we look at Italy on the other hand, I want you to look at 9 and 10 for England here, and 9 and 10 here. Look how much higher, compare it to the halfway line, right? Look how close Harry Kane is, pretty much on the edge of the centre circle. Look where Gianluca Scamacca is. Nearly a quarter of the pitch higher up the pitch, and that's for a team that had slightly less possession. And this gave Italy just way more attacking threat. Now I actually thought that England done an okay job defensively, but just Italy naturally had more attacking threat because there were people going the other way, not constantly coming towards the ball. If you're all coming towards the ball here, the opposition are just going to keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. Especially against the better teams, this wasn't a great Italian 11. If you think the likes of Germany, Spain, France, they have quicker defenders, especially France. So you can't play 3 forwards that want to come towards the ball in transitioning phases of football. It doesn't work. Now the other problem is that just in possession they weren't good enough, and again there are a few reasons for that. So in terms of playing out from the back, England were not helped by the fact that Nick Pope had poor game on the ball. At centre-back, typically John Stones would be in the team, but it was Eric Dyer in this game, so let's just focus on this game for now. Eric Dyer was often the one that was sort of allowed to have the ball a little bit. We kind of saw Raspadori and Scamacca kind of closing off Maguire and Walker, and letting Dyer have the ball. Dyer didn't really progress it. Now what we saw eventually was they kind of squeezed in, and then the wider centre-backs were the option, and particularly when it went left, Declan Rice would drop in here, Jude Bellingham would drop in, and Barella would kind of push high for Italy, and England had chances here to kind of get the ball in midfield and then push forward. And I actually thought that Bellingham done a good job of progressing the ball, both with his passing and his dribbling. And it allowed the likes of Sterling and Foden, coming towards the ball, to get into these pockets of space. In this particular game, this may not be a tactical setup issue. They just did not do enough on the ball, particularly Raheem Sterling. Now, let's say this has happened, right, because Barella was pressing higher on right centre mid. Let's say England's wide centre-back has it, Harry Maguire, he gets it into Bellingham. Sterling should be coming into feet here, because the centre-back here now has a decision to make. Does he follow, does he go in behind? And Sterling did do that, and it did cause indecisiveness from the centre-back. So Sterling could get the ball here, and in turn, there just weren't enough quality. And I think that's where, yes, Southgate deserves a lot of criticism, because I don't like the tactical setup at all, talking about those counter-attacks I was mentioning a minute ago. But in terms of this, Southgate can't really help this. Sterling does just have to be sharper and better on the ball. Foden coming in for Mason Mount, that's a change I want to see for a long time. Did Foden really do enough? I don't think so. Now, they weren't necessarily helped out by the wing-backs. Now, if you look at Reece James's numbers from the game, I've seen a few tweets online, the numbers look really good. But this is when you've got to talk about the eye test and then the stat test. Statistically, he looked quite nice. I don't think he was great. And I thought the Italian left wing-back done a very good job against him. And like I said, England, it's just caution. It's just always caution on the ball. Safety first. And it leads to really slow football. And this is the problem that Gareth Southgate has. He is a cautious manager. That's not a criticism, because some managers are attacking, some are defensive, some are cautious, some are positive. You know, think of Football Manager, for example. It's okay to be a cautious manager. That is perfectly fine. But it doesn't get the best out of this particular England squad. And what we kind of see happening is England plays cautious football. The wing-backs don't really push forward. We see them here. The wingers are coming into feet and not really producing the quality. Kane is coming short to try and get the ball, but then having no one to pass to. And what it ends up with is England just kind of end up recycling the ball in this little area here. but there's no penetration. There is no forward runs. There's no forward thinking, movement off the ball, runs in behind the defence. England have no way to move the ball forward because there aren't the forward players there. And some of that has to come down to Southgate, some of that has to come down to the players. Now, the big issue for me is really frustrating. I'm a massive England fan, and there is so much talent in the current generation of English footballers, particularly in the attackers. The defence is questionable, we can talk about that. But the attacking areas, incredible. Some really incredible talent. And then in Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham in midfield, two very good footballers. Two of the best in their particular positions, their particular roles. England can't be this cautious all the time. Southgate has to start playing to the strengths of the attack, rather than trying to cover the weaknesses of the defence. Now, in an ideal world, you do a bit of both. But this approach isn't working. England are far too cautious on the ball. Someone has to make a run in behind. If Sterling is coming short, if Kane is coming short, if Foden is coming short, and the wing-backs aren't really pushing forward. Saka, I like the experiment of him at left wing-back, but I don't think he done very well. I actually wanted to see him play there if it was a wing-back system. He just looked uncomfortable, so I don't blame Southgate for experimenting, but it didn't really work. But the issue is, you've just got players constantly coming short, and it's always safety first. And this is Southgate's kind of method. Keep the ball, stay in games, and then see if we've got the moment of quality. And they didn't have the moment of quality. The Italians did with Raspadori. Poor defensive error at the back from Kyle Walker for England. But this method only works, this method of caution only works when you're winning. Now, it sounds like a daft thing to say, but if you're a football fan and you watch your team playing defensive football but you're winning, it's okay. If you watch your team play defensive football and you start losing, you start talking about lack of control, lack of chance creation. Now, if you play attacking football and you're winning, you say brilliant. If you play attacking football and you're losing, you're saying, well, that's okay, we still carry a threat, we still, look good on the ball. So when you play with this cautious style, in terms of the media world and football fans and the life of a manager, if you're going to play this cautious style of football, this defensive approach, you have to get the results. Because if not, fans lose patience. Because you've got a combination of bad football on the ball and bad results. Of course, fans aren't going to be happy. Now, the other system we have seen England lining up in is a back four in kind of like the last 18 months, and I want to talk about that real quick. Now, personally, I think a back four is the solution for England. I think it is the way moving forward. And if you want to see a video on that sort of side of things, how I would improve the team, then let me know in the comments down below. But in terms of there still being issues in the team, the problem again comes to Southgate's cautiousness as a manager. Now, Gareth Southgate clearly doesn't trust his defenders. If he did, he wouldn't play the back three so often. So when we come to a back four, we kind of see that. So instantly we've got Mason Mount in the team ahead of Phil Foden. Now, Mason Mount's a good footballer, but he isn't quite as much of an attacking threat as Foden. However, you can't argue, he is better defensively than Phil Foden. So instantly we see Mason Mount come into the team, and that is Southgate playing with a little bit of caution. The other big change we often see is Jude Bellingham doesn't tend to get in the team if it's a back four. In terms of in the calendar year of 2022, we have seen Rice and Bellingham start a match together in front of a back four once. So that kind of shows that Southgate still doesn't trust that. And what we see is Calvin Phillips come into the team. And it's cautious trying to protect the defenders, the likes of Harry Maguire and John Stones at the back. And then as a result of being cautious, you have nothing going forward. And the big issue now is the midfield. So what does Jude Bellingham bring in midfield? He brings drive. Let me see if I can find him on the side here. I've lost him. Where is he? I'm blind. Here he is. So when Jude Bellingham plays in midfield, we saw it in that game against Italy, he likes to drive forward with the ball. He can occasionally progress with his passing, but in particular it's his carries, really driving forward, and he offers a threat in the final third. Now when you bring Calvin Phillips into the team, what we see is England building possession in a 2-4 shape. But the issue we have now is, in this formation, Maguire doesn't particularly have the room to step forward and play. Neither does John Stones. So it's on Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. Neither of these two are good progressive footballers. Now, people will argue that about Declan Rice and they'll turn to his FB ref numbers. You've got to remember progressive passes includes transitions. So for West Ham, his numbers are good because he's often playing in transition. In terms of when he's playing against a sturdy, structured defence, which is sat back into position, Declan Rice isn't good at progressing the ball. Neither particularly is Calvin Phillips. He's okay at it, but not great, and you don't need two of them. This is Gareth Southgate being far too cautious. You don't need two holding midfielders when you're playing someone like Iran. No offence to Iran, you don't need two holding midfielders, Southgate. Please, you don't need two of them. One is plenty. And it's just cautiousness. That is my big criticism of Gareth Southgate. Now, do I think he's done an excellent job for England? Absolutely. This England squad was in a place where everyone hated the team, the fans, like the disconnect was massive. The England team to the media, the disconnect was massive. Southgate has done an excellent job of repairing that. The question is, can he get the best out of the attacking talent, the England pool of quality footballers? I don't think he can. It would be a drastic change in managerial approach for him to do that. And that is where my question lies, and that's why I have to question, can he take this England team much further forward? Now, like I said, the issue is it's far too close to the World Cup to sack him. But I just think this England team is struggling, and this performance against Italy was concerning. Now, what was probably more concerning was that I thought it was better than all 4 performances in the summer, because they were really drab. But I think the kind of excuses were there with the whole end of season thing. These England players are sharp. They are now playing Premier League football. They had a pre-season, things like that. These are sharp England players. Southgate's football is far too cautious. In terms of, if we look at the squad, I've got players on the side here that I could have potentially spoken about. We've got Rashford. We've got, where's Grealish? We've got Grealish. We've got Sancho. We've got Foden, I of course spoke about. These are really talented attacking footballers. And England can't find a way to score a goal. You could easily get an extra one of these attacking players on the pitch, even Jude Bellingham, if you're just willing to play with a bit more like attacking approach. But it's constantly cautious from Gareth Southgate, and I do get it, right? He clearly doesn't trust his defenders. But why keep sticking with them? Why not try someone different? Why not try Fikayo Tomori? Someone like that. I just don't really get what he's going for. It's kind of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. It's not how football works. So England continue to be cautious, and then we're surprised that we don't see goals. It's kind of obvious, right? It's obvious the problem. The football is way too cautious. Now, like I said, if you want to see a video of me addressing these... Sorry, not addressing these issues, talking about the solutions, then please let me know in the comments down below, because I'd love to do it. I love talking about England. But in terms of the problems, unfortunately, as much as Southgate has done for the nation and the football team, he is the problem, unfortunately. Now, do I think the players need to show a bit more confidence, things like that, take a bit more risk and responsibility on the ball? Absolutely. And some of these footballers, they are just players out of form. It happens. But I think tactically, Southgate is largely to blame, and it's because it's far too cautious. Whether it's a back 3, having players coming towards the ball and wing-backs dropping deep, or whether it's a back 4 when you play too many reserved midfielders. Either way, Gareth Southgate is just being too cautious, and as a result, you're not getting the best out of this attacking talent. Something has to change. If it's going to happen or not, I'm really not too sure. But I want to go back to the point I made at the start of the video. It is never as bad and it is never as good as what you think it is in football. So it seems really drab for England at the moment. Chances are they go to the World Cup and top the group with 3 wins, and they probably get through the round of 16. So, you know, suddenly then does it look as bad, sorry. That's up to you. And your expectations. But, he's just too cautious, isn't he? And England have now got themselves in a sticky situation where it's way too late to change it. You can't now change it before the World Cup because you can't give a manager 6 days with these players. It doesn't work. England are in a really sticky situation. Luckily, there are a few tactical tweaks that Southgate can make, and this team could really look good. Really free-flowing football moving forward. If you want to see a video on that, again, let me know. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.